You are watching the number one podcast in the wrestling community. I'm one of your hosts, Juan.
And I'm your other host, John Paul Leck.
And together we are
Rope
Rope
break.
Break. Hope all of you are doing okay, staying healthy, good, well. Another day of imprisonment or another day of isolation. But, Rope Break's always creating things. We're always here for all of you guys. And 25 minutes after the show was off the air, we have AEW Dynamite, Jean-Paul Eck. A lot of new storylines kind of coming to some kind of new conclusions, like the tournament for the TNT Championship started. We had a main event, kind of at the end. Nobody really likes the result of that. Sean Spears going against Cody. Everybody knew who was going to advance, but the way that it advanced didn't turn out to be that great.
No, definitely a predictable match. That's not the main story. It wasn't like, oh, is Sean Spears going to upset Cody? Because everybody, you're just looking ahead for Lance Archer, stuff like that. So Sean Spears kind of an afterthought. And like you said, even though the match was predictable, you could have at least ended it legit. We saw something like maybe they were going to pull a swerve there, but then Sean Spears loses in typical Sean Spears fashion, unfortunately, like a jobber, like a loser. He looks, he's buried. I mean, I don't want to say buried because that's a strong term, but he doesn't look good.
But give me another term though, because he's buried.
Yeah.
He's the perfect 10 because in 10 seconds he went from being extremely legit to a loser one more time.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go over everything. We're gonna try to dissect every little thing. We had a really great women's match, probably one of the best matches. I will, like you said before we go on, probably the best match that AEW has ever had in their women's division. Hikaru Shida going against the teeth fixer, Dr. Britt Baker. So that was for me the highlight of the show. But like always, thank you so very much for watching the show, watching all the videos. We had some soccer. We had some weird thing that is about to happen. It said something like the landscape is going to change forever. So I don't know what that's about in our Facebook thing. I don't, I'm not in charge of everything. So who knows what John Paul is doing? I'm not in charge of any of that. But, so we're going to start with the beginning like usual. A really great promo from the Snake Roberts. He sits down. He says he stole our word. He stole our done.
Yeah, he's like, it's done, and it's like, okay, at least the Snake watches Rope Break, so that's legit.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts, for watching that. He pretty much is talking about Lance Archer, saying that if you think that you have a chance with him, you don't have any chances. Not even a prayer is enough. And he's like, I understand why Marcus Stunt went and tried to be the man, because that will make him all popular and famous going against Lance Archer, but you don't have a chance. You don't have a chance, and the next one will be Cody. It's stop being, stop running away, stop you're acting like a mouse. So pretty much they keep pumping down that matchup. And now when Dynamite opened up, we had on commentary, had Le Champion Chris Jericho and Tony Giovanni. That was really nice. I will say Jericho added a lot to the show.
Yeah,
way better than Omega, Cody, and everybody else.
Yeah, they had good commentary, and they're, I would say that because Jericho had his podcast, he still does have his podcast for what I don't think
he still does.
I don't think he's like Edge and done, but so he still does his podcast, so he's used to talking, constantly, all the episodes he has, so it was easy for him to go into commentary and just, call matches and, think of things funny, witty to say on the fly, where Cody and Kenny probably don't do that nearly as much. So that's why they were all like, But like you said, Jericho was on commentary. Him and Shivani, I thought they gelled really good together.
Yeah, it was really good. So, Jean Paul, we get the first match. Like we said about the Snake Roberts was introducing Lance Archer. He goes against Alan Angels. And that was a really quick match. See, this time, they made it like it should have been his first time, his debut. They did this in the fashion that they should have done it last week.
And I think that because AEW, the one thing I will give them is usually if the fan's voice is loud enough about something, they'll change it. Nightmare Collective, nobody was buying into that. Done. A lot of things, people were clamoring for a mid-card title. Now we have it. They said it was the TNT execs. No. It was the fans. We wanted it. We said you have too much talent fighting literally for nothing. Now they're changing that. And this, I think, was another thing. It was like Lance Archer had this match against Marco Stunt. It went 300 times too long. It should have been ding, 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 ring the bell, one move, two move. He does the blackout and done. But that's kind of what we got here. So I think they were like, you know what, we're just going to right the wrong. And this is, we're just going to showcase how powerful this guy is.
Absolutely, like you said it. Like the one thing that AEW always does is fix the mistakes. Remember the first episodes of Dynamite, the first editions. Oh, the sound wasn't great, or like there was too much. Like the theme songs, like they were too loud, and then we couldn't even hear the commentary. Then the week after it was backwards, and then they kept like tuning it in until like we have it perfect. And AEW at least they listen. And the one thing, like you said, the match was really really fast. Allen Angels tried to get some offense, but nothing happened with that. It was a big clothesline from Archer, followed by a massive slap to the chest into the corner. Then Angels tries to rally and land some of the kicks, but Archer grabs him by the throat and hits one-handed throw over his head, and then Archer hits the running elbow. And then, like Jean Paul said, blackout, that's a legit finisher. But only a guy that size and like that rip can pull that off. And Archer did one blackout and done.
Done.
And done.
Like you and I and Jake the Snake say, done.
Done. So then, you said Jericho and Giovanni are commentary. So then we go to like the first women's, the women's match that we have. By the way, Sarah Ann, remember the girl that like was on Dynamite last week?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was signed by AEW. So like every time that we have AEW as a show, we'll also share the news. She also was signed by them, so really cool for her. She was also like right by the, I will say by the barricade. Like she gave Britt Baker a hug. And talking about Britt Baker, she faced Hikaru Shida in, like we said, probably the best match in the women's division that AEW has produced. These two went really, they went on tour.
Excellent. Oh yeah, this was such a legit match, and I mean hard hitting. These women were like throwing elbows like crazy. It wasn't just like slaps. It wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna do like dives on each other, this and that. Like it was extremely legit. They were beating the hell out of each other. But the one thing is they were bragging up Britt Baker, and I wish they would have said that this match was a definite number one contender. They were like, oh, if Britt wins, because Hikaru Shida is number one in the power rankings, but she's not technically the number one contender because there's like different, which I don't agree with. I think if you're number one, you should be the number one contender. But they said Britt Baker was like number 4, I think. And then there's like Yuka Sakazawa, or whatever her last name is, when the one who Britt Baker broke her teeth, she ranks ahead of her. And I'm like, how? We don't even see her on the show. They said that was like her last appearance. I mean, she might have been on AEW Dark since then, but it's like really, like, to me, Britt Baker should be number 2, just for the story aspect of it. But,
you're right.
Because they said, like, if Britt wins, she could be considered the number 1 contender. It's like, but she's in the number 4 spot. How would you know what I mean? So that's why I like the power rankings and all that stuff. To me, I think they got to iron that out. I think it's still a little wrinkly. They got to fix it a little bit. But that was just one thing I picked up. I was like, I would put her higher on the
I will add to that, Jean Paul. I think maybe if she beats number 2, then she goes to number 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like she becomes number 1 contender, so to say, because like you said, they said that like Riho is in the bottom of the row, the bottom number 5. Then he's got Britt Baker, then Yuka Sakazaki, and then they had Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. So maybe like if kind of like you beat the number 1, then you go right away to number 1, which I don't really like that.
But no, I would say if she would have beaten her, I would have then put her at number 2. Ahead of Chris Statlander, but I would still have Shida be number 1. It's just like, like Shida kind of, if she would lose again, then she would go down. But it's, it's tough to say. How do you really figure it out? But
especially if they don't tell you the rules, is really tough. But like I would much rather see like them explaining, hey, if you win a match to the number 1 seed, then you automatically become number 1. Or like you go 1 spot or 2 spots, like that's why I'm able to understand. I don't need to like follow commentary on that. But aside of that, excellent match. These two went to war. Like they won, like even like the AEW wrestlers, they had some wrestlers also right next to the barricade again, and they were helping out Hikaru Shida. A really great spot.
Where she hit that running knee.
They were holding Britt Baker, and then she hit that massive knee and everything, and I think that's when she got busted open. I'm not sure.
I think so, But like you said, she got busted open, lots of blood, so you can tell. I mean, when you get busted open from your nose, that can only be legit. I don't think you can make your nose bleed. But, she was busted open, and like you and I always say that whenever there's color in a match, it adds a lot to it. And I think that made this match definitely feel more legit. It was a legit match to begin with, whether there was blood or not. But seeing the blood made it legit. And there was one spot like you and I both popped for when she was in the middle of the ring and she was putting on the lockjaw, like that mandible claw, rings of Saturn. And she went to go do it, and the ref is like, no, 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 you can't do that because she had blood on her hand. You don't want
Yeah.
to put your bloody hand in someone's mouth. So she was like, well, then give me a glove. And he throws her a glove, and she's like, put the glove on, and then goes to do it. And then Sheeta, gets the roll-up attempt that Baker kicked out of. But it was just so legit to see that. It was like funny
And
almost.
see, and they did it on the fly, so that was
Yeah.
cool. Like you said, like they came up with something on the fly, and that made the match to me, like you said, much more legit. And also, like Hikaru had the armbar, and that was really cool. And like in the end, Hikaru Shida ends up winning, which is the right thing for me because like she's the
Yep,
number
I
one
agree.
contender, and like they're really building her up. The girl is absolutely awesome in the ring, and also like I think she has a little bit of a personality. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like the
you can.
charisma or something, but I feel like attracted by her, and I'm not
Yeah,
saying that as a man. I'm just saying like as a fan, like
yeah.
I root for her.
Oh
Yes,
yeah, no, I agree. And like, I mean, now a lot of these, wrestlers have personalities. Like if you follow them on social media, I know she's big into like anime, video games, stuff like that. But we want to see, like you said, more of a personality on the show, and we're kind of getting that a little bit now. She's not cutting promos, and like we're not getting full-fledged, personalities like from people like Matt Riddle or Keith Lee, guys like that on NXT who got over by having more mic time, but she is definitely getting more over by just wrestling and seeing her. And that's what all we wanted from the women's division is just have these women be on TV so we see them multiple times a month, maybe 3-4 times. And then it's like, oh, okay, now we can kind of get attached to them and be like, oh, they're legit. And that's what they're doing with Hikaru Shida. But I will say, go back to All Out or whatever one of the first pay-per-views was when they had that triple threat match that Shida was in. I was like, this woman needs to be the AEW Women's Champion. It should be her. I liked her more than Riho, but even back then, we knew Riho was going to get pushed to where she was. But like we said, now they're finally listening to us, and I think Hikaru Shida will be the one to defeat Nyla Rose.
exactly. Yeah. There's nothing else to say on my end because I absolutely agree with you. So like we're going like usual. This last sequence of the match, Hikaru Shida forearms Baker on the apron, and then she goes to the top rope and drags her up with her and looking for a superplex, but then Baker rakes the eyes and kicks her off, and then Shida comes back and then she hits a backbreaker using the top turnbuckle. And then Shida hits another running knee, and that's all she wrote. Because that running knee kind of like hits in where she's like all busted open because I think she hit the
Mm-hmm.
nose and everything. So like kind of you play it up like that, covers, she cooks both of the legs, one, two,
Yep.
three, and Hikaru gets the win. Absolutely legit. I will say, you know what? Hikaru and Chris Statlander even can make even a much better match because Statlander is such a great wrestler. Also, I'm looking forward to when Hikaru becomes the champion, go against Statlander. That will be my feud of the year in the
Mm-hmm.
women's division for AEW. So, Mr. Leek, then after that we get a video from Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa. They're in the tour bus. They're going to be tagging against the best friends. So they just start like asking what they should call their team, and Nakazawa says the best friends, and then Kenny says that name is already taken. So it's like they do rope break, that name is already taken also. So Nakazawa insists and says Kenny has the power to change that. So Omega says he'll see what he can do, and then Orange Cassidy, then he steps out of the bathroom, opens the bus door, and then he walks in, and then Trent and Chuck Taylor, they were right there. So they're arguing with Omega, and then the team is like the name of the team is on the line tonight. So that was to me,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like
No, I know. Yeah, I thought this was kind of stupid. It should have been like you could have cut out all that beginning stuff and just been like something where it's like, oh, Michael Nakazawa could have been like, oh, so you think you guys are the best friends? He's like, no, Kenny and I are the best friends. And it's like, oh, well, let's see who's the better group of best friends tonight. Like, let's prove it. And that's how you go on. Boom. And then this match to me, it was like supposed to be like funny comedy. Michael Nakazawa has the baby oil and this and that. It went too long, and also we didn't see. Now maybe there's travel visas. Maybe the Lucha Bros are in Mexico, and that's why they're not here, and that's why we're really not seeing them. But to me, you should have had them come out and cause this match to end in a DQ because their feud with the best friends is supposed to take place. Once things kind of go back to normal. It's kind of on the back burner right now, but it's like you could at least kept the feud alive in our minds Because a lot of people, if you watch more than one product, you're seeing tons of different shows. You're going to forget that the best friends in the Lucha Bros were even having a feud.
Yeah, and that's the
I mean,
one thing that, like, remember, like the last time we saw the Lucha Bros, it was supposed to have a street fight with
mm-hmm.
the best friends, and because of all the situation with coronavirus and everything, like this, like you said, is in the back burner. Is like we don't know. This probably what you just said is what's going on, like because a lot of wrestlers are just happen to be where like in their countries where they're from. So we're gonna talk about that more in NXT review because we're gonna talk about supposedly they're gonna have a cruiserweight tournament to like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like name like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
like just like a champion like until like Jordan Devlin's supposed to like come back, and he already said that that's fine because I will go back for a unification match. So also we know that like Rhea Ripley had some issues. We're gonna be elaborating a little more on NXT because right now we're in AEW. But like you said, I think that everybody's just having issues with this situation, and this transcends to wrestling, transcends to everything else. So I agree with you, and we had to suffer through this thing because I wasn't really a fan of it. But before that, Jean Paul, we got an excellent promo by Jake Hager and John Moxley. Really, really legit. They pumped you up. They really made you feel that like this is a legit AEW championship match. Like you said, Jake Hager's wife was talking, and she's like, "Well, we're used to winning. Like it's every time that he goes out, he wins, and if he doesn't win, he doesn't come home. Pretty
Yeah,
much that's what she told.
she's like, we're a house of winners, so like you have no place here unless you're a winner, and it's like, but she says it with like this creepy like smile on her face, like she's so confident, but it's like, so when he loses to John Moxley, like, is he done? Is he gonna go live with Le Champion with the hounds, like in the doghouse? Like, what's he gonna
So
do?
they kick me out.
But like, like you said, it was extremely legit, and I love the fact that you see his coach there who trains him, and he's like, oh, like he's gonna be the AEW champion, and then he's gonna become the Bellator champion, and just like the sky's the limit for this guy, and they just brag him up. They said, yeah, lots of people do both, Brock Lesnar, but they're like nobody does it at the exact same time, pro wrestling
And
and
Bellator.
and MMA, so they're like this is extremely legit and and Moxley too, because you almost feel like Moxley's the underdog in this, which I think is how they're trying to sell it.
Yeah,
So then
that's
when
why they're trying to sell it. Yeah.
because he's like, oh, he was even saying like, oh yeah, Jake Hager's legit, all this stuff. He's like, but you got to really dig down deep if you want to step in the ring with somebody like me and think you're gonna beat me in a no holds barred match. He's like, this benefits me. Hager said the same thing. No, this benefits me because then I can use any style I want to fight. Blah blah blah. I'm legit and all this other stuff. So it's really intense feud. That's the one thing we always say WWE is legit for video packages and all that. They might be good at the video packages, but cutting these these promos, nobody does it better than AEW.
Yeah, and they add that like that feeling, that legitimacy. They add like that like real fight.
Yeah.
Like aura. Like you for example, like when he says, "Yeah, I do Bellator. I've been on training camp for like since February." It's like I've been training for this match like May 5th or something he said, and then he goes, "Well, and therefore I'm in the best shape of my life."
Yeah,
So
it's
what
like,
he's
yeah,
gonna
he was,
take is
yeah.
the best, the best of me. I never been so driven.
Hmm. Exactly. And like you said, he was training for that fight. And it's like, well, that fight's not taking place. And now he has all this pent up, like you said, he's in the best shape, all this like, energy that he was going to unleash on this guy in that fight. Now he's, it's all for John Moxley.
Yeah,
So
and
really legit.
yeah.
And like we said, this promo was legit. They even had a legit promo for Shawn Spears and Cody, a match for like, one night and done.
Oh yeah,
Like the
yeah,
first
they
round of
did.
the tournament,
They did.
they had like a legit promo for that, and they did revisit more Jake Hager and
And John
John Moxley,
Moxley,
which I wasn't sure why they kind of like went back to it again. I guess just to fill more TV time because they pretty much said the same thing in both like
it was just
promos
pretty much.
for
And
it.
then Moxley kind of elaborated a little more because he's like, well, I perfection my DDT, like the dirty deeds, like the paradigm shift. I perfect that move. Every time I put you in it, you're gonna land your face on the mat. 1, 2, 3, and done. You're finished. But in the case of Jay Hager, 3 seconds after that, he was putting me in a submission lock. So like
Yeah, in
he
the
was
ankle
elaborating
lock.
a little
Yeah.
more, and he was like, "Well, like it seems like I'm gonna have to do more. I'm gonna have to weigh over." or to other things to get the win this time. And that's what's going to be a street fight, and this is going to be like
Well, yeah,
violence.
yeah,
It's going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
like brutal.
No,
So it was
no
good. I
holds
mean,
barred, but yeah.
now you said like I don't know why they went back to that, but I mean like they can just pump it up because pretty much it's like the AEW Heavyweight Championship match, and we
Hmm.
know that like the title is not going to change hands. It's way too soon for John Moxley, but at least they made it look legit.
Oh
So
yeah.
Jumbo, now let's go to like Nakazawa and Kenny Omega with the best friends. The match went like you said really way too long. And you know, at least the best friends got the win because it's to me that's the best thing to do. You know, like they're a legit team. We've said about Trent, he's a really good wrestler. He
Yeah,
he
and
can be in the same guy.
Yeah, Chucky T, he's no slouch either. He's legit. And I mean, he's hilarious. Like if you follow him on Twitter, like you'll be laughing your ass off. Like he's a hilarious guy. We both love Freshly Squeezed. He was promoting Rope Break with his
Oh
son.
yeah,
We
yeah.
saw
We
that
want
stuff.
to thank
Yeah.
him for that. Also, thank you, Orange Cassidy, for like letting us, promoting our show. We really appreciate it.
But
Thank you so much.
yeah. So like the best friends are legit, and I think that I don't want to say that they should beat Death Triangle, but I mean, if Death Triangle eventually gets the tag belts, a perfect team for them to eventually drop it to me, I think would be the best friends.
I enjoy that feud because again, like
Yeah.
you said, like they have all these three guys, meaning like these three groups of guys. They have stories with each other. They
Hmm.
have like things, meaning for example, like the match that like Pac had with Orange Cassidy at Revolution.
Yeah,
So that
legit.
that they revisit everything, and I wouldn't mind that because like you said, the one thing that like is really cool about wrestling is how you can always go back to something that happened, and then you can retake it and then make it better, or like like
Well,
in like
yeah, or not
like
even that. You
extend the
use it as
storyline
yeah,
from that.
yeah, exactly. More so that you use it as fuel to the fire. It's like, oh, Death Triangle beat us, 6 months ago. Now they're the tag champs. We have an opportunity to beat them again. We're gonna use what they did 6 months ago as fuel. Blah blah blah. We're gonna kick their ass. That's how you got to do it, and that's how you book long-term storytelling, and it makes sense.
Exactly, and like I said, like this match ended up with the best friends getting the win, and I really think that that was the right call because again they get a win over Kenny Omega because Michael Nakazawa is just a loser.
Mhm.
But like I think he gets the exposure, good for
Yeah,
him. It's like
what did Jericho even say? But he's like, oh, look at Michael Nakazawa rocking that merch. He's like, plain black T-shirt that just has his name on it in plain white text. He's like, look at that seller on
and that's what I
AEW
mean. Like
shop.
yeah, he was saying something about like he's never won a match or something. Like I don't know. And so I was like, yeah, like Nakazawa was only a loser. So like pretty much this Kenny, he's like benefiting from Kenny Omega. He's getting some advantage from that. So we're gonna go like always. And like the last sequences of the match was like I didn't really like the underwork spot, but like we're gonna go over and then Jean Paul will like, elaborate on that. Omega hits the buckle bomb on Trent and Nakas and like see even in the notes they put Nakamura, but it's Nakazawa hits an avalanche angle slam on Taylor on the top rope. Then Omega and Nakazawa team for like the Doomsday device on Trent for a near fall, and then Taylor breaks it up. Then Nakazawa hits like the ultimate Benin arm, but Taylor breaks it up for another pin attempt. And then Nakazawa goes forward again, and then Trent ducks, and then he hits Omega. Then Trent hits the half and half for another near fall, and then this time Omega breaks it up. So like you could see like there was like a lot of emotion here, a lot of exchange of like pinfalls and all of
Oh
that.
yeah, there was moments in this match that it was like, oh, this is legit. We see moves. Kenny went for the Snapdragon. We see all that stuff. Really near falls. Michael Nakazawa was even kicking out of stuff that I didn't think he would. So there was aspects of it that this was legit. But then we got like the baby oil stuff, and then like there was the time where they went to go hug Orange Cassidy, Kenny Omega, and
And they
Nakazawa.
missed.
Yeah, well,
And
he
they-
like ducked out of the way. He's like, no, like there's only two other guys who can hug me, and it's not you two losers. So like there was moments like that in the match where like it kind of took you out of it a little bit. But like you said, there was some legit spots in here, but mostly the only thing we remember is the baby oil and him trying to stick his dirty underwear in Trent's mouth.
that's Nakazawa for me. So Taylor throws Omega into the barricade, and then the best friends hit the strong zero for the pin and the win, and therefore they keep their name, so they can still be called the best friends. So really legit stuff. Like I said, when it comes to like, the best friends, they get in momentum. Hopefully, like you said, at some point they can lobby for a match for like the tag belts. I wouldn't be upset because the three of them, Chucky T, like you said, Trent, and Freshly Squeeze, they're like a really legit trio, and I really like them. So now
Mm.
we see the Exalted One. He's gonna be in action. Like his character is already kind of floundering. Like it's like okay, some people are like he's good, McMahon wannabe. I'm like bitter and things like that. So he's getting out of the USB during like daytime, and then three members of the Dark Order are lined up, and then he berates like two of them for not wearing a shirt and a tie. So then he says if they can sacrifice and get their act together, then they will be denied unlimited power. Already done. To me, the gimmick is already done. Like what
Yeah,
happened with Scott Grayson, Evil Luna.
yeah,
Like
like
that
yeah,
should be like those two
yeah,
guys should be like like your guys. It's like you're the
yeah.
GM, your assistants, and then the other guys are like whatever. So
Yeah,
like
like
they're
I
really
don't like I said, I don't understand what like the character of it is because to me it's like okay, now he's just a really strong guy who wears a business suit 90% of the time, and then the other time, the other 10% he wears ring gear and he kicks people's ass with a Stan Hansen type lariat. So it's like he doesn't have any powers, I guess. How does he make people's lives and their dreams and their desires come true? Because we don't see anything that's like mythical or magical or evil about him. He's just like we said, a Vince McMahon wannabe with a man bun and a beard, and it's like okay, like I'm not buying into the gimmick at all.
no.
Like I said, it's not to me. It's not dead and buried. It's not AJ Styles at WrestleMania, but no, he's not buried like wrestling term buried. I'm making a joke like literally buried under dirt. But Brody Lee, the Exalted One, he's about to be wrestling term buried and done because who cares about this gimmick? To me, there's no life. It's like he's on life support. If you don't turn him around soon and get them in a legit feud soon, to me he's done.
Oh yeah. Well, like the one thing, Jean Paul, like think about it. They spend so much time pumping you up, hyping you up with like this great video packages, like this, like almost like trailer movies or
Mm-hmm.
movie trailers. There you go. Like making you think that the Dark Order was gonna be this cult that like you could actually go, and if you feel like a loser, if you feel like life has done you wrong, and the coronavirus on top of this, like you feel like
Mm-hmm.
everything is like done. Go join these guys and turn your life around. You do all of this for like 2 3 months to get me to this, like to get me
Yeah,
to Vince
and I, and
McMahon.
I and I won't even blame like there not being an audience because one, the only thing we're really complaining about is his video package, which wouldn't have an audience response from it anyway. The audience response, you just got to go on Twitter and see everybody shitting on it. Which good job, guys, keep that up. But the only thing to me that fell flat with him was his debut when he walked out. Obviously, it was crickets because there was no audience. But you haven't done him any favors since then. You haven't booked him. Yeah, he was in squash matches and this and that, and he looks legit in the ring. But then these promos, it's like, what are you doing with the character?
Yeah, man. It's like you're doing anything but make him feel like the exalted one.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the one thing. Like you said, he's already in life support. For me, he's about to die. Meaning even worse than life support. Like he's just if they don't turn this around in the next weeks, Brody Lee completely done. Like completely dropped the story. Like the Dark Order needs to
Yeah,
just be repackaged.
it's almost like we'll get to the main event here. The chairman, he started off like so legit. I think it was All Out or whatever when him and Cody had that match.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
when he cracked him in the head with the chair, and it was like this huge grudge match. He was gonna have Tully Blanchard in his corner. You're like, oh, this is legit. And then we get it, and then we're like,
Mm.
so like
Yeah.
he's done. And it's the same thing with the Exalted One. They hype it up, and then when we actually get him, we're like, what?
Well,
Like
what
this is
happened?
yeah, like
What happened? Yep. So we get another video package. This time it's actually backstage reaction from Britt Baker, and then she says like she's still kind of like covering blood, so she's wiping that off yet. And so the interviewer asks if she feels like Sheeta lives up to like her ranking, and Baker says, "Oh hell no." She complains that Sheeta is too violent and reminds us that she's a dentist. It's like I can fix my teeth. If something happens, I can get it. Don't worry, I'm good. So then we get another like Jean Paul was saying the video package with Jake Hager and John Moxley hyping out their match. And now we get to see a video of Matt Hardy. Another guy that is still like already 3 weeks into it, like he's already floundering. And then
mm-hmm.
he's already like, woo. A lot of people are like not happy with the situation. A lot of people are loving it. Other ones are really hating it. Is like, okay, we wanted the broken gimmick, but not kind of like a comedic version of the broken gimmick. It's like it
Yeah.
seems to me that like Impact is the only company in professional wrestling able to produce Matt Hardy the way he wants to be produced.
Yeah, and I would say that, I mean, I assume that they're not, handcuffing Matt Hardy here at all. They're probably telling him, hey, go out. Like, this is kind of how we want you to, like, tie it into the story. But other than that, go out there and do what you want to do, produce it, and we know it'll be legit. I don't think they're, like I said, handcuffing him at all. But to me, it seems really, like, friendly. I like how he calls him, like the hole of ass, like an asshole, but he calls him the
Yeah,
hole of
yeah,
ass, when he's
yeah.
referring to Jericho. So like that's funny, that's pretty legit. Like I said, the main thing is it just seems like really like friendly, like a toned down, like not kid friendly, but you know what I mean, like version. He doesn't seem really like intense or crazy. It seems like that's kind of toned back. And also, like I said to you, I'm fine with him being friends with the elite and aligning himself with them because Nick Jackson is done and it's like okay they needed somebody but then there was no blood and guts match, so it's like okay Matt Hardy really doesn't need to be aligned with the elite anymore because by that time that match happens Nick Jackson will be back because it's it's not even a real injury, it's a storyline injury, so they can bring him back whenever they want. But like the whole thing is like, oh, we're gonna have the Hardy compound match. Oh, okay, that's legit. There's probably no coronavirus at the Hardy compound, so Jericho will be legit. But they had to call it like a elite deletion match or something, and I'm like, why does it like this actually has nothing to do with the elite? It's not even like he's like, oh, it'll be you and Pride and Powerful versus me and Cody and Matt
And
and Matt.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not even like he's with the elite. It's just Jericho and Matt Hardy. So I'm like, why do you need to tie the elite into literally everything? Like, can we get something else?
Can you live? Can
Yeah.
we live? Yeah. No, I like they're not booking it the way like everybody wanted. Like you like mainly I don't think that like he is like you said, he's lacking a lot of intensity. And also like the broken Malheur is supposed to be an unhinged character.
Mm-hmm.
And like he seems like pretty sane. It's like the same is like sane insane. Meaning
Mm-hmm.
like that he talks like that, but like he's sane in his own insanity.
Yeah. Now the
Well,
one
what am I
thing,
trying
yeah,
to say here? Because you're probably
yeah,
like, I'm thinking I'm oxymoron, or like Yoda.
yeah, yeah.
Pretty
No,
much
no,
like I do.
I understand what
I
you're
talk
saying, but
backwards, but
yeah,
I'm good.
the one thing that like I did pop though is when he was like shitting on Sammy Guevara, and he's not a god, he's a false prophet. He's like he's probably not even Spanish either, or he's not even Latino either. I was like that's
Yeah,
legit.
yeah. Or like like for example, like Yoda will be like break rope must watch.
Yeah.
Like rope break. Yeah, yeah. But like I agree. So like we go to like let's dissect the promo. Like Matt Hardy starts like you said. He goes, Sammy Guevara, he's not really a god. He's a false prophet. And like he's like he wouldn't even respond if I said ¿Qué pasa? It would be like no español. Like cool. Why? Because Ruby is Puerto Rican, so Matt probably has a little bit of knowledge on this in the Spanish language. And then he actually mentions about Santina and Ortiz, Proud and Powerful, Loud and Devourable, as he calls him. And then Jake Hager, he says that Jericho has ruined his vessel and made him a Frankenstein monster. And then Jericho, tried to recruit Vanguard one, but he will never. That will never happen. And then Vanguard guard comes back, and then he's like we're gonna set it on fire or something like that. The
Yeah,
shirt.
he's like, bring me the shirt, and then he has Matt Hardy's new T-shirt. He's like, oh, that wonderful, stupendous, glorious T-shirt or whatever he says, and he's like, oh, that shirt's legit, but that's not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for Jericho's shirt, and then he was like, oh, it's a dumpster fire, and he's like, what? And then it cuts, and Jericho's shirt's on fire. He's like, oh, it's in a dumpster fire. He's like, oh, okay, that's legit.
That's cool. Yeah, and then like you said, Hardy invites Jericho to come to face him at the Hardy compound in an elite deletion match. So like again, like you have to keep some things, unique, individual. You have to keep them separated from everything else. And that's the one thing that you said, like Matt Hardy should be his own
Yeah,
entity.
because I'm not gonna say it's as bad as Woken, but Woken was clearly saying we don't want to give you 100% broken. We don't want TNA broken. We want WWE broken. To be like, oh, this is the elite delete match. It almost makes me feel like it's like the same thing where it's like we don't want Woken. We want AEW version of Woken, and it's like, can we just get the broken Matt Hardy? That's what I
And
meant.
that
Yeah, the
ties what I
broken.
just
Yeah,
said. It
like
seems like
yeah, like
Impact
yeah,
is the only
exactly.
company able to produce the
Mm-hmm.
broken gimmick
Because nothing's
like the
better
way
than
that
the
like
original.
Matt Hardy can actually produce the character.
Yeah,
But like you said,
nothing's better than the original. Anytime they try to remake a movie, it's bullshit.
That's true though, and you know
like
what? And that
the
takes me
original.
to that's why our name is the original road break. That's why I understand that. So good call on there, Mister Eck. Lee Johnson versus Brody Lee. Brody Lee once again the exalted one, looking like Macho Man Randy Savage on the set of Spider-Man 1. Tobey Maguire like throws him like he hit like he didn't use the stun like thing the stun gun or whatever like the stun man. He goes hits like his back into that scene of the fight. Macho Man Randy Savage gets injured and his career was done. Like the super kick from Goldberg to Bret Hart, same thing. Done. So
Like debuting as the Exalted One, who's a clone of Vince McMahon. Done.
done. So then Johnson.
All career-ending injuries.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much like Brody Lee's doing because I don't think there's a person that enjoys how the Exalted One came about from the promo. You know what you were thinking about in the promo to what you got, and I think that you will get a refund if you will.
This is one thing before you take us through this such an amazing match that we witnessed here. The one thing on commentary I did like when Jericho was saying, he's like, oh, the Exalted One, he's trying to like hype him up. He's like, a bunch of you stupid idiots out there thought it was Matt Hardy. Some people thought it was Raven. And when he said that, my ears were like, I was like, see, Raven would have been legit. I mean, not saying he probably can't go in the ring worth bullshit. He was never like an amazing wrestler. He could do some moves. I'm not going to shoot on Raven. I think he's a legit character. But that would have been super cool to see him in a non-wrestling role. If the Exalted One would be like how Jake Roberts is, where
Yeah,
it's clearly you're not going to wrestle. You're just, mentoring these guys and helping them. And, he could still go in the ring and hit a DDT on somebody and it would be legit, but he wouldn't have a full match. That would have been cool. And then he could have had Brody Lee just be one of the guys in the Dark Order, and then maybe he eventually takes over. But I feel like Raven would have done the character better and not have been a Vince McMahon clone.
well, it's because again, like Raven was a leader of a cult, so like
Yeah,
it would have just
exactly.
fit the same thing. And Raven actually had a match last week on the TNA show because Impact now is kind of like Impact, like the 2 hours on Access TV, and then you have an hour of like old school TNA, and
Uh-huh.
he had a match with Tommy Dreamer, and he turned. It was actually I think it was Sami Callihan against Tommy Dreamer, and Raven came out and helped out Sami Callihan. Like he
That's
turned on
it.
Tommy Dreamer,
But
so
that's
he
what
can
I mean.
still do a
Yeah.
few things. So it
But
wouldn't
see,
be a bad idea.
that's exactly what I mean. So it would have fit perfectly. But like we said, we got Brody Lee. We've beaten this subject enough. So please take us through this match.
Yes, and so Johnson runs and jump Brody Lee, but then she just sidesteps, and then Lee hits a clothesline and a big boot, and then Lee goes for this Lynch shot, tope, and then a half Nelson suplex. Then Lee hits the discus clothesline, spinning sidewalk slam, and that's that.
Done.
Yeah, pretty much done. And then like we kind of go like you said, a really nice video package going through the whole story, like the whole thing that like Sean Spears and Cody Rhodes had, like the matches when he bust him open, the match that they had it all out, and then they had another match, and then Arn Anderson came out, and then he did the spine buster, and then that held Cody, and every time that they had a match, the winner was Cody Rhodes. So pretty much this was happened this last time. First round of the TNT Championship, Cody Rhodes against Sean Spears. Cody came out with Brandy. Like his theme song, I enjoyed it somewhat, so I really like that. And well, Brandy there, I don't know. Like I guess like you gotta find something for her to do because she
Yeah, but
manages Goldust and QT Marshall, and now she has to manage Cody. I didn't
mhm.
like the spot that like he's like and like the kids. I'm like no. I'm like
Oh yeah. I mean, see, like I said, I don't. I mean, I'd rather have her do this than be Nightmare Collective, but I like them together how they are. But when they're a heel,
yeah. Heel is better.
because then she can like maybe flirt with the other wrestler, and he could be like, and then she can kick him in the dick. There can be something where it's like, oh, it's legit, and she gets the heat. Instead of her being like, oh, I'm gonna cheer for my underdog husband who wins like every match, and it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
like
it's not
like
that good. Yeah, it doesn't like again. These two need to be healed because her whole career, both of them, they're most of the time they being healed.
mm-hmm.
So this what just happened this time, and then we had a decent match. These two can always produce good matches because aside of all the losing things that Sean Spears is able to do, aside of all the losses that he gets, he's a good wrestler. He can
Yeah.
produce good matches, but unfortunately, when it comes to winning, when it comes to get to that edge, he never gets the win.
Mm-hmm.
This
And see, now you could have, like, obviously they want, like we said in the beginning, it's already determined who the finals is most likely 99.9% going to be. Lance Archer versus Cody Rhodes. To me, you could have pulled a swerve. You could have had Lance Archer or Jake the Snake. You could have had Jake's music, only just Jake, not even Lance Archer. Jake's music hit during this match, and then it's like, huh, what's going on? And then Shawn Spears gets, whatever, some bullshit, and Shawn Spears wins, and then Cody could maybe not appear until it's Lance Archer's match, and he could screw him over and Colt Cabana wins. Then they're feuding, and it's not even over the title. And then you could have somebody else. It could be like a Darby Allin wins it, Sammy Guevara, Dustin. Maybe not Dustin wins it, but he could be in the finals. That'd be like a good rub for him. Not that he needs it, but it's like he's legit. He deserves it. Even Colt Cabana, Kip Sabian, really push him. There's lots of guys who you could really benefit from this tournament, but like I said, they're all just going to be wasted, just for this Cody and Lance Archer feud, which you could do outside this tournament.
You could start the feud in the tournament, but you never get to a match in the tournament. Like you use both of them to screw the other one.
Exactly.
For example, let's say Lance Archer makes it to the final, right? And let's say, like what you said, Cody gets eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Cody shows up in the final when Lance is about to win the title, and then he helps whoever is right there next to him, and that other person becomes champion. You have somebody else getting a push, and you go to your match with Archer and Cody. So why can't they do that?
That's what I'm saying. They should do that. But it's all, like I said, I guess I just look at it all from the political aspect, and that's why I'm like, oh, this is bullshit. But it's like, it's all just because it's like, okay, well, Cody can't, like they said, he can't win the AEW Heavyweight Championship, so what's the next best thing? Boom, they're going to slap this thing fast on him faster than, like, I don't even.
And then, if I'm the owner, if I created all of this, I would much rather see people with like the titles, like somebody that is not me, because I could easily be the champion any other time. When like people are actually not expecting it, but this seems to me a lot like expected, because okay, Jericho was the first AEW champion, so the first TNT champion was supposed to be like somebody like a Cody. So like, or Kenny Omega, like like somebody that is going to make the title look great. But to me, this kind of mid card titles needs to have somebody that is not somebody that we know, or like we're thinking that he's going to have it, like a Darby Allin, like even like a Guevara, because we always complain about what Guevara, a great wrestler, but he never wins anything.
Yeah.
If he wins something, boom, hey, I'm a champion.
To me, like if I'm picking, it was any guys out of this, it would be Darby Allin to win it, because like the pop that, I mean, obviously there's no crowd, so it's a shame, but like if this was in front of a live audience, the pop he would get for winning it would be huge. And especially like you said, if it's somebody like Cody comes in, hits a crossroads, on Lance Archer, then followed by a coffin drop from Darby Allin, 1, 2, 3, Darby Allin wins it, that would be so legit. But
exactly.
I mean, we'll see. They can still do that. There's still time for them to do that in the second round. It could still happen, but we'll see.
It can still happen, so we will say like, yeah, we're not gonna beat him up yet. Once we have the final and it's Cody and Lance Archer, then we'll like really
then we take the gloves off.
Then we take the glove, we take the mask off, and then we're gonna go all like like Germo Mania on the both of them. So Cody goes up to the top, but Spears jumps up to him, and then he hits an arm drag. But then Brandy gets on the apron and distracts Spears. Why? If your face are you distracted? That's again. I didn't get that. Allowing Cody to get back to his feet, but then Cody almost hits Brandy by mistake. So I was like, okay, I don't like that too much. Spears gets Cody on the shoulders, and then he hits the attitude adjustment, or like the Death Valley Driver over the top rope.
It was more. Yeah, to me, it was more because it was over the top ropes. I would say it was more like an AA than a Death Valley Driver. But that is what his new finisher is, the Death Valley Driver. But I was hoping earlier that Cody would have almost knocked Brandy into the table. I was like, that would have been legit. That would have been nice. Not that I have anything against Brandy. I don't want to see her get hurt or anything. But it's like that would have been a crazy legit bump.
No, yeah, it would have been nice and would be enjoyable for us to see. So like he goes through the table, and then Cody gets back in the ring at 9, and like Jericho's like, "Oh my God, Cody, don't come back, stay down."
Yeah, now I have. This is where my major problem with the match was. Okay, you smash a dude through the table like that. He's like, oh, my back, this and that. Why do you go for the count-out victory? Okay, I know he's a heel. I don't want people to be like, well, he's a heel. That's what he has to do. No, he doesn't. Roll him back in the ring and pin him. If it took him 6 seconds to get up, you probably could have pinned him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Him good. And then when he comes in the ring, like he just, like Jericho was saying, he was just throwing a temper tantrum instead of just beating him up. As soon as Cody rolled in the ring, I would have been stomping on his head. Stomping on his head, hitting knees on his back. His back just went through a table. Attack the weak point. You know what I mean? The neck and the back. You do the Death Valley driver. That's where your move hits. It's like, dude,
keep working on the areas that you just damaged. Keep working on the areas that they're more like damage. Yeah. So, like the dumb heel syndrome, you could say that. So then he goes back in the ring at 9. Jericho's upset. Giovanni's like, everybody's like, oh my God, like this thing's going to keep going. And then he hits 2 quick crossroads. This is the worst part of it. Spears kicks out. So what would you think if he kicks out of both of them?
When Spears kicked out, I was legit like, he's going to win. I'm like, no way, Cody. I will not talk shit on Cody again. Cody's putting people over. Not that he hasn't been doing that since day one, but he puts people over, but he's still always in the limelight. So I'm like, oh, whatever. But I'm like, he's legit. Like, there's no way that Shawn Spears kicks out of 2 crossroads and he's done. But what happened?
And then, I even think, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to win. That's legit. That's cool because, like, again, like he's somebody that needs to be pushed is getting the push. So cool. But then Cody gets frustrated and then applies a figure 4 to Shawn Spears, and Cody pushes him and using him the submission, and then they do the count 1, 2, 3, and Cody wins. And even Jericho is like, oh, like his father used to do this to win matches, and I'm like, but that's Ric Flair though.
Yeah,
that's
he even said he's like,
figure 4 is not Dusty. It's Ric Flair. What the hell, Jericho? Really?
Yeah, and he was like, but he kind of corrected himself, but he still fucked up. He still opened his mouth and put his foot in. It's like, dude, really? Like, you're gonna say Dusty Rhodes is the figure 4? Dude? Like, that would be like me saying, oh, who does the Stone Cold Stunner? It's Mikey Whipwreck.
Or like it's The Rock. The Rock does the Stone Cold Stunner. Yeah. Like, that's his move.
I was going for the reference that, like, Mikey Whipwreck kind of does like a stunner, but he wasn't like the one who made it famous. I'm sure Dusty Rhodes did the figure 4, but did he make it famous? No. Why would you be like, oh, he's put so many people away with this move? It wasn't a bionic elbow. Like, what do you do? It wasn't the belly fat. Like, dude.
Yeah, so that was wrong.
And how do you like we said, Shawn Spears looks like a loser because not only did he lose, which makes him a loser, but you get pinned with no body weight from your opponent on your entire upper body. He did not hold him down to the mat. He had him in a figure 4, and it looked like he was getting electrocuted by freaking Scott Hall with a taser. He's like, on the mat. Aubrey Edwards, 1, 2. This guy's got to kick out. Nobody's going to get a pin in a figure 4. 3. This guy's a loser. Shh.
Yep. Let
me dig the hole. Throw Shawn Spears in. Throw Tully Blanchard. Oh, that's why Tully Blanchard wasn't here. He's like, well, you're going to bury this guy. I don't want to be here. So you throw Shawn Spears in. You throw in his scarf. You throw in his chair. Maybe throw Peyton Royce in there. She's not doing anything on WWE. Then you bury that hole. Shawn Spears, thanks for all your contributions to pro wrestling, But
and then look for a different profession, because it is true. Like, it doesn't matter how good this guy is, he doesn't seem to win matches. No. And in this kind of world, you need to win matches. And the way that they booked the ending, that was absolutely even worse. Because it, again, like you said, going to like really cool, really like awesome moment, he gained a lot of momentum. He kicked out of 2 crossroads. 10 seconds, the perfect 10 seconds after figure 4, and Cody advances, and nobody, I think, is happy by the ending. We knew he was going to go,
exactly. We knew Cody was going to win, and it's clearly obvious I'm not the biggest Cody fan, but if Cody was going to win, he was going to win. That was the main, it wasn't like, oh, Shawn Spears is going to win. So you knew Cody was going to win. Why do you kill his finishing move?
Yes.
Why do you make the crossroads look like bullshit if Cody was going to win? Have him hit 2 crossroads and then have it be done.
It would have been much better because at least if you hit 2 of them, then you're done. I mean,
Yeah,
it should be just one, but I mean, you go to the extent to do another one,
yeah,
and still not
yeah.
good.
Imagine if The Rock hit like two, like you brought up The Rock earlier. Imagine if he hit two rock bottoms
Yeah,
and then he kicked out. You're like, like
yeah,
what?
and yeah, maybe if you don't
Or
believe,
two people's elbows, or the Undertaker hit a choke slam on or a tombstone on you, picked you up, and then hit another tombstone immediately
yeah,
after. Are you
and
gonna
you're
kick
still
out?
kicked out. Yeah, and then that's why that was bad. But in the end, I will say pretty like good show up. Like the first hour was really like good. Like the promo from Jake Hager, John Moxley, the women's match was really good. Second hour not too great. But I think that this time a lot of people are already saying it. NXT is gonna beat AEW in the ratings
Oh yeah.
because they had like pretty much an all takeover. Like all
Mm.
takeover like matches, and they were gave it up on free TV, and we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. We're going to be elaborating on the situation with Rhea Ripley. We're going to be talking about the cruiserweight tournament that they're going to have, and every little thing that happened on NXT today. So, guys, thank you so very much for watching. Hopefully, next week AEW gives us a little more, like hopefully more Hikaru Shida. We want to see
Yeah,
that.
well,
Maybe Statlander.
next week will be legit just for the Jake Hager match alone. I think they're gonna give that a lot of time. I hope that gets at least a half hour. I hope that gets a lot of time, and it's a good way to eat up a lot of a huge chunk of your show. That's a quarter of your show. Eat up a lot of time. Then you really don't have to book too much. You can kind of maybe do a little somewhat of women's division, maybe somewhat Matt Hardy again. But I think next week's show will be better. But I do agree with what you said earlier. I think NXT blew them out of the water this week, and I've yet to even watch it. But I
Yeah,
did see who won that
we
women's
were hearing
match.
that there were a
So
lot of good things, like a lot of good outcomes, and it was really cool. So, like, we're gonna watch it right now. We're gonna get ready for you guys, so we bring you the best information possible. Thank you again. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget that hit the bell for all the notifications. Thank you to every single one of you. Please stay healthy. Keep washing those hands. And there's
yep.
only
And,
one last thing to say, and that is.
uh,